following the news that actor Alec Baldwin will be charged with involuntary manslaughter over that fatal shooting of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins on the film set Rust, we're going to explore that a little bit more. We're joined by former prosecutor from the US, Emily G. Baker. Good to speak to you this morning. The actual charge is involuntary manslaughter, which is not something we have here in the UK. Just explain a little bit what that is. Is that what we would think of as manslaughter?
There's two kinds of manslaughter, and with involuntary manslaughter, it's more encompassing of accidents. It's not an intention to kill someone, but in this case, either doing an illegal act where somebody then dies or doing something that is legal but in a criminally negligent or reckless way that then leads to someone passing. So it encompasses those accidents that can happen, like on this set, because without negligence, I don't think you end up with live rounds in a gun on a movie set. So that is where that involuntary manslaughter charge comes from. It normally encompasses things like car accidents as well, or car accidents under the influence and things like that.
That's a big question, isn't it, Emily, actually? How did those live rounds turn up on a film set? But before we get into that, was it a surprise? Is it a surprise over there that Alec Baldwin is going to face these charges?
Not tremendously. The district attorney in Santa Fe has been indicating for quite some time that they are looking at charges, and really this is the only charge that fits. They asked for additional funding a number of months back for bringing charges against 4 people, and they said in that release specifically Alec Baldwin. So they were contemplating this and had been signaling publicly quite a lot that charges might be coming for Alec Baldwin, and we knew that those charges would likely be involuntary manslaughter.
Do you think his fame would made it more likely that he'd be charged, or is that helpful in some way? Is there an element of needing to see that justice and the process is being done, or in your view, is it normal, right, that he would have been charged having looked at the evidence so far?
This is a really difficult situation because you truly have an accident that ended up with someone dying on a film set. New Mexico has lots of movie production there, and so they have an interest in keeping New Mexico safe, but it's also something where no one intended for this to happen. It was a very tragic accident that is now criminal. So it's a difficult decision for the district attorney to make, especially with someone like Baldwin, who's not only polarizing, but has lots of money to throw at fighting this case, where the district attorney in New Mexico does not have nearly as much, and they don't want their voters to believe that they're wasting money going after this case. So it is definitely a difficult charging decision to make.
The film's assistant director, David Halls, has already entered a guilty plea to a misdemeanor charge of negligent use of a deadly weapon. The prosecutor said he will spend 6 months serving probation. So there's already somebody on set who has admitted guilt to a charge that was put to them. Does that change the landscape for the others that are going to face charges? And equally, if Alec Baldwin is found guilty, what potentially could he be facing?
With David Hall's plea, it's interesting because we now know he can testify against the others. He doesn't have to worry about other charges. And this is a reduced charge that seems to be a misdemeanor charge in that area, which is why only 6 months of probation with a suspended sentence. So it opens the door for him to testify against Halyna and Alec Baldwin, and to turn over things like text messages and emails to the police and the prosecution. If Alec Baldwin and Hannah Gutierrez-Reed are convicted, they're facing a base charge of 18 months, and then if they charge the additional use of a weapon, there's an additional 3 years for the use of a weapon enhancement. So they are facing some time, but the prosecutor also said they're interested in justice for Halyna Hutchins, and they're not necessarily looking for prison time in this case. So it's very possible that this could also be probation after a trial.
And we know as well that Halyna Hutchins' family, her partner, her husband, has settled, hasn't he, with the production?
Yes, the film was supposed to go back into production next month. There's like 5 civil lawsuits going on and then criminal cases. I don't know how they try to film this movie, but Halyna's husband is supposed to be a producer on the film now. I have no idea how that works, but the settling of the wrongful death case with Alec Baldwin, even though the insurances aren't done yet, doesn't stop the district attorney from charging the criminal charges. I don't know how anyone films this movie, though.
Extraordinary, isn't it? And is there any clarity on why there were live rounds on the set, or will that be the nub of what's looked into? Because we've heard people very close to when it happened, like George Clooney, say that he couldn't understand it, other actors and other production crew saying it's not normal to have that. Is that going to be the nub of what's looked into?
It really is the shocking part of this, because the FBI report indicates that they found over 50 live rounds. It truly is staggering. And the person who provided the ammunition and weapons to set, the armourer, has not been charged in any of this, though is named in the civil lawsuits. So I'm not sure how they got from a prop house onto set. And that really is a big question. But for the criminal case, it might not matter how they got there. It's that they weren't discovered and people failed to do their job. And that led to the live rounds not being discovered. And that really led to the death of Halyna Hutchins, which should never have happened.
No, it is truly extraordinary, isn't it? And still a lot to uncover through the trial. Emily D. Baker, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me. Have a good morning.
The idea, Jackie, that, as Emily was saying there, that the husband of the cinematographer that tragically lost her life has settled and is now produced on the film, and the film is going to carry on being made. It's quite remarkable, isn't it?
This is, I mean, first of all, this is a terrible tragedy for Halyna Hutchins' family, which we need to keep at the heart of this. But what you also heard there was a really interesting description of the complexities of the US legal system, the interrelationship between the civil case, where I suspect there's a considerable amount of money changing hands, and then the quite late introduction of this criminal charge as well.
Extraordinary, but as you say, at the heart of it, a woman, a wife, a mother, lost her life. It's grim, isn't it? Absolutely grim. Good to speak to both of you this morning. Thanks very much indeed.